Hello, welcome to Digital Influence. I'm Dallas McMillan. Each week I interview inspiring coaches, consultants, marketers, salespeople, and entrepreneurs about how they've used digital marketing to build a valuable brand and how you can too. Now, this week I've got the pleasure of interviewing Darcy Smythe. Darcy is an Australian sales trainer and he has a unique approach to sales. Now, I was referred to Darcy by a friend, and as soon as I saw him, I was intrigued, and I knew you would be too, so I had to get him onto the show. So I'd like to welcome Darcy from the Tonal Persuasion method to Digital Influence. Welcome, Darcy.
Yeah, love it, and thank you for having me here, Dallas. I love the introduction. So, I suppose the unique side of sales that I bring is what's referred to as the tonal persuasion method. And to wrap it up, basically in one sentence, is the idea that there's many sales trainers out there. In fact, almost all sales trainers out there that specialize in what to say to get the sale over the line, so to speak. And this is powerful. I mean, you got to know this stuff as a sales trainer and as a sales professional, as a solo business owner. All of these things are critical to understand. But as we learn through communication and language, we actually learn that how you say something is actually 5 times more powerful than the words that you actually say. And so the tonal persuasion method was born to solve that problem for people, making sure they're capitalizing on what is being said by also knowing how to say it extremely persuasively. And now all your listeners are watching for me to see if I'm extremely persuasive or not. I know I've sort of shot myself in the foot there. We'll see how we go.
I know it's one of the curses, isn't it? It's you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, but then just relax and be yourself at the end of the day. So, how did you discover this? What led you to the tonal persuasion method?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been, I like to say to all listeners when I jump on a few podcasts or anything like that, I often say I might scare away a lot of your listeners from the start, but those that continue listening will be happy people. So I was near obsessed with human behavior, like just an obsession with what drives people to make decisions, human psychology, business psychology, buying psychology, essentially what causes people to say yes to one thing over another is essentially what psychology ultimately boils down to, isn't it? So I was always obsessed and studied psychology and psychophysiology at university, at Swinburne University in Melbourne. And from there went on to study a number of coaching courses, of course, implementing the psychology involved in that. And then found myself so obsessed with psychology, but I was thinking, what's the point of just loving a particular field? You need to be able to place it into a context or an environment where it solves a problem for people or gives an advantage to people. And in the business world, ultimately, that is the field. You've got two fields. You've got marketing and you've got sales. And because I love people so much, I love working with people, I love helping people make great decisions, sales was ultimately the field to specialize in. And that's essentially how it's come to be. It's been a 5-year journey, 5.5-year journey up until that point now, which has been pretty cool.
Awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so really applied psychology, and I must say that's sort of what drew me into marketing and sales as well. Is just why do people do what they do? And because people are so perplexing, and that's one of the things that excites me about what you do is that it's easy to completely miss this whole 80% or so, and think, hang on, that's not what I said, or
Yes.
that's not what they're telling me that they want to do, and yet the results are totally different. And we're almost blind. It's like we're colorblind to tone and that aspect of language. Well, a lot of people are. I guess it's EQ to some degree, but you've really codified this aspect of human communication and then tailored it for sales and especially for smaller businesses and entrepreneurs, from what I understand.
Absolutely. Codified is a good word. I haven't used that word myself, but I'm absolutely stealing that from this point forward. So, yeah, codified is a good word. We outlaid, or I outlaid the method into 6 selling archetypes or tonal archetypes that we like to discuss and like to learn with. And basically what we say is that anyone that comes to the TPM training walks away learning that there are these 6 archetypes that they can tap into, and quite often there's one that they will fit into quite well, which is highly persuasive and highly conducive to selling. And we also talk about 4 non-selling archetypes, or the opposite of those things that sales professionals and business owners are using tonality-wise to turn away buyers every day unfortunately, without even realizing it. But of course, once they have this knowledge, they can either knock out the ones that aren't working or go harder on the ones that are, and the results speak for themselves.
Wow, and immediately this evokes the question: which ones am I using now, and which ones am I using that are not working for me? Like there's so much hook in your sort of preposition there that people are going to be compelled to find out what type they are. And I guess it's probably like behaviour types in Myers-Briggs or something, that these are probably preferences, and we've all got a repertoire of these, and sometimes we'll use one and be more likely to succeed, and other times we'll use another and fail, even though we thought we were doing everything right.
Definitely, and I think that's so true, Dallas. I mean, every buying decision that we make is essentially, in some form or another, a way of getting to know ourselves better. People always want to know more about themselves. If there was one thing we're all leading to, it would be a 160-page book written on who we are. That's the one thing we all want to buy, because we all want to know it. And so when you can codify, there we go, I've stolen it once. When you can codify what people do and how they make their decisions, this is something that people are always very interested in, because it's the ultimate knowledge that they can have to make better decisions moving forward.
Awesome. And so who do you help, and why do they need it? What's your typical client, and what are the challenges that they face, and how does tonal persuasion come in there?
Great question. So I love working with, my passion is working with the solo business owners, or some business owners themselves and maybe an admin, but they're the ones making their own sales. A lot of solo business owners that are listening to this, they'll understand when I say that there is a lot you need to take care of in business. There's the sales, there's the marketing, there's the admin, there's the finance, there's the creating the relationships, there's the network. There's all these things that you need to take care of as a business owner. And usually you love about 2 of them, and you probably hate 2 or 3 of them as well. And I often like to say that, yeah, all of these things, none of them are going away. The things that even you don't like, they're not going away. But I tell you what, they become a whole lot more fun when you're making sales as a result of doing them. Solo business ownership is a lot more fun when you're making sales. And so the typical challenges that they will be facing is this idea that it's not necessarily that they're new to sales. Most business owners will have sold in some respect or another, or will have enjoyed getting people to make a particular decision before they start a business. They've always geared a little bit that way. But one of the things that people run into is they feel as though, Dallas, that they need to put on this suit and tie and a gold watch when they need to go and sell. It's like, whoa, I'm a salesperson now, got to be a different person. And it's simply not true. The cape that people wear around their heads simply can be taken off, and you actually get better results when you actually do sell as yourself. And that's what we talk about in the 6 tonal archetypes. If I was to ask you, Dallas, is which one are you, and be more of that, because that's how you're going to convey as much certainty as possible. And it's the certainty that people are buying into more than anything else. So if you can convey and deliver the certainty, things become a whole lot easier throughout the entire business.
Awesome. Fantastic. And with the average small business owner, I often see people posting in Facebook groups, so I want to be a salesperson. They're not making sales, they're hoping someone else can do it for them. And why are people so challenged or scared or reluctant to be at the coalface in their business? Because I've just heard the advice from so many successful business people: sales is the skill you need to develop. And from my own experience, that's how you understand your customer, make sure that your product is going to fit them, make sure you're serving them the way they want without being at the sales face. You lose that opportunity. But most people really are, they don't like sales, they're bad at it. Why is it, and how does tonal persuasion inform that? Like, are there certain things that we walk out and use the wrong hat and thus experience difficulty?
Yeah, so that's one part of it. So I like to break, it's a really good question. I like to break it up, if I may, into maybe 2 to 3 different points. They sort of all roll into each other. But the first part that people run into is a fear of rejection. That's always the number one thing for people new at sales. They don't want to be rejected. And why would they? No one wants to be rejected. You would wish that every girl you go to ask on a date would say yes, or you wish that every guy you walk up to at a bar would say yes when you ask to buy a drink. No one wants to be rejected. It's the last thing that we want. But when you come to sales, I think it's getting over that realization of the fact that you're going to get rejected, and it's never a rejection of you, it's just a rejection of your product. Like they can't find a way that they need it in their life yet, and that's completely fine. And that's just completely normal. There's always going to be people that will say no. But the thing is, when you can actually start to count your no's and be excited by them as well, you stop seeing it as rejection. You start seeing it as, I've got my 8 no's for the day. Statistics would suggest that the 9th one is going to be the yes. So you need to learn to celebrate the no's as much as the yeses, and the rejection actually gets turned into an advantage for you because you go out there and actually try and get them. It's quite a cool little switch to make. The second thing is that people will shy away from sales when they make sales about them. And it's the most ironic thing in business. It astounds me. I won't say it astounds me. It astounds me now that I've grown past the point and can look back at how people would believe that about sales, because I know I most certainly did at one stage as well. But the fact that sales isn't about you, if you can harness that, there will be so much certainty flowing out of you that the charisma goes up, the sales go up, the overall business results go up, because all you're doing is making it about other people. Now, when someone is being sold to, or they're aiming to buy, it's all about them. That's why we love making great buying decisions when we do, is because the whole environment, the whole situation, the whole process was about us. And Dallas, who is everyone's favorite topic on the planet? It's themselves. We're human beings. It's what we do. So the more that you can make it about others, the less you make it about you. And if it's not about you, fear cannot exist in that moment. And so that is one of the most powerful things that you can understand in sales, right? And the next thing is understanding that you can talk about, people might hear that and go, oh, that's a great point. I need to go and make it about others. But I also need to let you know how to make it about others strategically so that it works. And the answer to that is solving a problem for people. When you make it about others, what you're really saying is, I found a way to solve a problem for you that you couldn't do yourself previously. So when you're actually solving that problem for people, again, this is how it all wraps up. It's this nice little package of psychology, is that quite often when there's a problem to be solved, it causes uncertainty. Whenever we make a buying decision, all we're ever aiming to do is turn uncertainty into perceived certainty in an otherwise uncertain world. That's all we're aiming to do. And so when you learn about the tonal persuasion method and the archetype that you fit into and can convey that certainty, quite often you will be the example of the solution to a problem simply by showing up. And this is how you find that people just attract a crowd wherever they go. These people that they just ooze certainty, and for some reason they may not have the answer, but you're going to ask them anyway because you're going to believe what they tell you anyway because you love their certainty. And that's
what the White House.
Say again?
It'll even get you to the White House.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's a whole other conversation in itself. Yeah, but it's true. The man conveys a lot of certainty, and obviously gained enough followers because of it.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and are there any other elements to making that shift to be more confident in sales?
I believe that's the main one. I think that if I did suggest any others, it would take away from the importance of that first point. There are so many other things I could teach you about sales and to deliver straight out to people, but I think that if I did it, it'd dilute the fact that sales is not about you. And so it almost strengthens it now that I had the opportunity to say something else, but I'm going back. Sales is not about you. Remember that point. And everything else starts to fill itself in. The answers to the next steps you need to take, or the next product you need to make, or the next call you need to make, or the next service you need to provide, or the next way you need to market, all those answers become a lot easier, and their implementation becomes a lot easier when you understand that what you're about to do is not about you, and it never is.
Yep, awesome. So I really like that angle, because the fear of sales is really a self-consciousness, and that's misplaced, isn't it, from that analysis? Really, you've made the mistake of thinking it is about you if you think, oh, well, I'm scared of public speaking. Sorry, not about you. It's really about the customer. And great salespeople are people who focus on others and make others feel good. When you see them in action, they're spending their whole time attending to the other person and doing it so well that the other person doesn't realise they're being doted on half the time. And instead they're set up. So
yes, 100%.
Awesome. So once we know that, what are the next steps, and where does your approach kick in?
Yeah, love it. So once you know the type of certainty that you want to deliver, once you understand that sales isn't about you, essentially the code of what you're about to learn in human behavior and in sales is all about what you're essentially learning it for. The purpose of learning it is to understand how to make it more about other people, right? So if you know that sales is about other people, and then I just gave you that extra tip, which is make it about others by solving a problem for them. Well, knowing how to solve a problem is a code within itself. And then every code that you learn from there about human behavior, or any code of selling that you learn, what you're essentially learning it for is because it arms you with the knowledge of how to make it more about other people. So if you know a particular code, if I knew about you, Dallas, that you're driven by, say you're driven by significance, and you're not really driven by connection with other people. Maybe that's just not important to you. Or maybe I know you're driven more by the need to win than the need to be comfortable in life. Maybe I know that about you. And so if I know that about you, it gives me the power and the knowledge to know how to make it more about you by encouraging you and showing you how what you're about to buy is going to help you win, and how it's going to help you look significant as well.
Yeah,
that's just
awesome. Cool. And so this is different from the archetypes, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it all comes into it. So the archetypes, there's two parts of it. There's like the code of selling behind it, and then the archetypes on top of it. But all of the codes create the archetypes. So the archetypes all come with them forms of certainty that they deliver that touches on different points of buying behavior. And it's going to essentially cause people to say yes, or lead people to say yes. I shouldn't say cause, because that sort of takes the responsibility away from the buyer, but it helps them to, or leads them to, saying yes with you when the match is right.
Awesome. So just going back to the title of your approach, the tonal aspect, how much of this is tone of voice and inflections and things like that?
Yeah, love it. Probably about, in terms of, like, I love to say to people that it's really a game of probably about 80 to 90% tonality, and the certainty that comes with that, and conveying that form of certainty for yourself. And then 20 to 10% what the words are. In terms of course, the words are important, but what gives them their power is the tonality. In terms of the learning, the overall course that we deliver, it's probably about 50-50. So it's 50% learning the code and 50% learning about the archetypes that are made up by that code.
Awesome. And what about the word choice itself? Do you address that much in your approach? In terms of, I saw a book recently, I was just trying to think of what it was, and it was something like The Secret Life of Words or Nouns. But what they did was analyse different people, who are good at selling or bad at selling, or people in positions of power versus people who are sort of at the bottom of the pecking order in their work life. And the way they use language was very different, especially around things like the use of I and we. So, from memory, more authoritative people tended to say you a lot, I think, and whereas people with less power often said I, which is almost self-conscious language, and really great leaders tend to say we a lot. That was, I only read the back of it in an airport lounge, but I'm curious as to, whether you touch on that or your angle on that.
Yeah, it does come into it at times. I mean, there's always going to be questions about what to say at a particular point that involves it, but I never ever, no tonal persuasion method course, I like to have this as a point of difference, is you will never ever receive a script in a tonal persuasion method course. And this is going on record. This will be uploaded to the internet, so it'll be there forever. The day that I deliver a script in a tonal persuasion method training is the day that I quit business. In terms of that business, because it's just not what it's about. It's simply not what we're here to learn. What I love to give people or arm people with is the code behind why you do say a particular thing, so that no matter what is said, you're never going to have a standard response for something, but you will have a standard structure or system you're adhering to know the type of thing that you should say next, as well as how to say it.
Which lets you be more natural and authentic and responsive in the moment while staying on point.
That's exactly right. Again, if you've got a script, all you're looking for is more certainty. And if you're looking for more certainty, who are you making it about? Yourself. So you'll never sell. And so that's the way. Well, I wouldn't say never, because people do sell with scripts, but you're far more likely to generate higher quality clients that want to refer you, talking to the business owners here, far more likely to generate high quality relationships, high quality clients that want to tell their friends and family about you because you genuinely cared and you wanted to solve problems for them. You wanted to be delivering certainty all the while you're doing it.
Awesome. So how do you teach this? I know you've got a website, and we'll take a look at that a bit later, but you also run live workshops. How do you sort of work with clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with clients on a one-to-one basis. Obviously, that's a premium service. And there's also the Tonal Persuasion Method Level 1 event, which is a 2-day training and online membership course. And there's also the Tonal Persuasion Method Code of Selling class, which goes 2 days deeper into the code. And those are taught all across Australia at the moment. We've specified mainly in Melbourne, which is where I'm obviously from, and then Brisbane as well. Looking like Adelaide and Sydney will be the next cities on the market as well, which is pretty cool. It just sort of goes where the demand goes, and at the moment Sydney and Adelaide are screaming out. So I probably should solve that problem for them.
Awesome. And so tell us about someone who has sort of found you and had that problem to start with. They're sort of they're your ideal client in terms of the type of people you help and what you did with them, so how you work with them and what results, what happened afterward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the main people that see the results are the ones that understand and can language how their business solves a particular problem or gives people a particular advantage. Because what that actually does for them is result in the phone calling them, because when people have got a problem, they call that person for the solution because they've added value previously before, and it's very evident that they're an expert in their field, say through value and content marketing and things like this. That's probably another discussion. But when you know the problem that you solve, the phone starts ringing you, or people pass through you like a toll booth operator, because the toll booth operator solves a problem. They solve the problem of time based on the fact that a particular road isn't open. You pass through the toll booth operator, pay him your $5, and you're allowed to open the road. And so the people that have gotten the best results out of it have combined two things. They've combined the problem that they solve with knowing the archetype that they most, the tonal archetype that they most are geared towards most naturally. So they know the problem that they're solving, and they know the type of person they want to bring to the conversation that is going to be naturally them and will naturally sell. And one of the best examples was, I was speaking with a client that I'd worked with. It was one of the first conversations we had. He said, "Tell me about this tonal persuasion method thing that you're doing. I want to know more about it." I'd explained about the archetypes. And two of the archetypes, one of them is called the action taker, which is the dominant type. And one of them is called the fair player, which is the level-headed, this type of tonality that I'm talking with right now, Dallas. It's me, it's you. Let's see how we work together, and let's just see how it works. Very fair, right? So I spoke to him, and I explained these to him. He's like, "Oh, so I'm the action taker, definitely." I was like, "No, you think you are, but naturally you're the fair player. Trust me, jump on the next call that you do and just bring more of that tonality." And it was something ridiculous. This was one of the first days of the training. He went overnight and sold an extra 60 grand worth of products and services because he had these calls booked in that night. He had one guy that had dropped out of his consulting services, and then he called him back up. My friend, the guy that I'm working with, he called him back up and used the tonality. He said, I took a whole different approach to it. And he signed back on. He came back on as a client because we figured something out. And then he made 2 to 3 more sales that night on top of it, 60 grand just by changing the tonality of his voice. Even I was astounded at that. I mean, I know this stuff works and I love it, but even that, I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And so if people do want to get in touch and sort of learn a bit more, what's the next step? How can they discover your method? I've sort of done this myself, but what's the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dallas. So the best website to go to would be www.tonalpersuasionmethod. So that's TONAL, tonalpersuasionmethod.com. And there people can, those that are curious and want to find out more perhaps about what type of archetype they are as well, they can tap into the Tonal Persuasion Method Beginner's Guide. It's got videos, content, resources, all the cool stuff that you get with opt-ins. And that's all available there for them. They'll see a much younger me training the Tonal Persuasion Method at at an event there, and that's available for them there.
Awesome. I'm just going to pull up the website on the screen, and okay, so that's the Tonal Persuasion Method. Can you see that there now, Darcy?
I can't see that there, but I trust you've got it nailed.
Okay, cool. Yep, awesome. So I will make sure that's on the video. So yeah, there's the website, and there's a gift there that people can grab. And I went into that and then got invited to some awesome training, which gives you a pretty thorough understanding of exactly what the Tonal Persuasion Method is, and also another page on the live training as well. So if you're in Melbourne, I think there are a few seats left, and there's also a couple of events planned coming up. You said in was it Sydney and
yeah, we'll be moving 2017. We'll look like Adelaide, Sydney, and Brisbane moving forward, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. So yeah, check it out there. Good looking website and lots of free resources if you are curious about tonal persuasion. So I think if I had to sum up the idea of tonal persuasion, then I'd say it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and we all know that's true. But we didn't really have any concrete way to implement this, and I think your approach have really provided some structure there, and so we looked at some of the gaps in the way we're communicating, and
we've codified it, Dallas. That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Oh, look, thanks so much, Darcy. And I do like to just ask people at the end, if someone else was in your shoes a few years ago with a new idea for a business or a new take on things, what's your advice of starting your own business with your unique method? I love how you've realised yours, but it's at the beginning it's probably not so clear. What's your advice if you're just getting started?
Love it. So my advice is don't look for it to be clear. And my advice actually here would be you've got to take action and find out what results in being clear for you. Because no matter what, even yourself, Dallas, even myself right now, there'd be things we're even doing right now in business that we'll look back on in 2 years from now and go, gee, I thought I had that clear, but I didn't. That's just completely normal. That's the nature of business. So don't look for things to be clear before you go out there and just start doing. Simply start doing at the end of this sentence. Go. Stop listening. Go. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, terrific, Darcy. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I look forward to coming to one of your live events and soaking up the live in-person version of Tonal Persuasion.
Absolutely, Dallas. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's a pleasure. Have a great day.
Cheers.